We've got the 2025 Honda Pilot.
The TrailSport.
Beauty of a V6. Oh yeah. Great power.
It's got lots of gears too.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into what is under the hood of this thing, Andrea.
A 3.5 liter V6 with a 10-speed automatic transmission, 285 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. In Canada, standard all-wheel drive. In the US, front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive options are available. You can put regular fuel in the Pilot.
Is this a get it while you can kind of V6? Because we see pretty much all the other competitors, when they bring out a new model, they go to turbo 4s.
Yep.
So we'll have to wait and see. Right now we're going to get into what do you get with the Honda Pilot.
The base trim comes with a 7-inch driver display, a 7-inch touchscreen with wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, a 7-speaker audio system, 10-way power driver seat, 4-way power passenger seat, heated front seats, a heated steering wheel, power tailgate, and Honda sensing technology. In the US, not all these features are standard, like the heated steering wheel and the power tailgate. HD radio is standard, one up from the base model.
So 2025 rolls around, model year, still has the push button transmission. What are we going to put it in?
You got to put it in S for subscribe, and if you can hit that notification bell, you'll be notified when all of our reviews drop, and then you can watch them.
And we do this, the couple car review, twice a week. The first one drops on Wednesday.
We put another one out on Saturday.
So make sure to like and subscribe, but also follow along on Instagram. It's Motormouth_Andrea to see what's going on behind the scenes and to get a question in. For me, it's Motormouth_Auto, and the links are below the like button. So we drove this TrailSport version last year for 2024, and I came away really impressed with the comfort level, because this has a quite soft suspension if you need to go on a gravel road or take it off-road. It gives it lots of movement in the suspension. Do you find it too soft for daily driving?
I think it's okay if you're dealing with some extra imperfections in your road. Let's say in Quebec, for example, I think that you would really enjoy a vehicle like this. It also gets an inch more ground clearance than the other Pilot models. You've got steel skid plates and off-road tuned suspension, smaller wheels, 18-inch wheels, and all-terrain tires.
But because it has 18-inch wheels and all-terrain tires, you've got a lot more sidewall to work with, more travel in the suspension. It is notably smoother and more compliant than the regular Pilot, and the steering is very light too. Now that's something you don't typically like in this class of vehicle. Is it overboosted?
Yeah, I don't love it. I would rather have something that's a little bit heavier. And when I say lighter steering or heavier steering, it's just how easy it is to turn the wheel. This is very light. Look, it is a large 8-passenger vehicle, so for maneuverability, it's great. Getting in and out of those tight spots in the city also works well. I mean, I hear that this is the type of steering that most like. I'm just a little bit different.
Okay, riddle me this, Andrea. You need a vehicle of this size. You've settled on a Honda Pilot. Are you going to get this TrailSport, or are you going to get just the regular Pilot?
I'm getting the regular Pilot because I want that bench seat in the back.
Oh.
See, TrailSport only gets captain's chairs, which I think is a miss by Honda.
So I was talking more about the outside and the way it looks. So I appreciate this look. I know a lot of people like it with the big knobby tires and everything. It wouldn't be anything I would choose. I do like the smaller wheel for compliance on the road. It makes it very comfortable. But the base wheel is 18 inches too, right?
It is. And I like the look of the Pilot. I think Honda's done a nice job with it. You can get a chrome grille, black grille. You can see on this TrailSport model, we've got black exterior accents, black door handles, black mirror caps. I mean, I think it looks good, especially with this contrasting color. It's just, I like the interior features that are offered in just the regular Pilot models.
I like bright work on a car. I don't like black wheels for the most part, so I think I go with a regular Pilot. Okay, so what are the standard features on the outside?
Well, first off, this gets 7.3 inches of ground clearance. The TrailSport model, 8.3 inches. Standard features include LED headlamps, LED tail lamps, LED fog lamps, black roof rails, 18-inch or 20-inch wheels are available, and a temporary spare tire. TrailSport has a full-size spare tire. There is also an available acoustic windshield, acoustic glass front doors, and standard active noise cancellation.
So we did review this last year, and that's when the interior was updated along with the outside, and a very pleasant interior. We do have an update on the rear seat in Questions, Coffee, and Cars in just a moment. But this is very pleasant, and it's a nice combination. I always say this about Honda, of analog and digital. You've got the latest infotainment system, but still lots of switches and buttons.
I actually really like this interior. It's simplistic, it's clean looking, it's comfortable. It has a great seating position in here. You know, you're sitting up and over the dash. Visibility is very good. The issue I have is that Honda offers on the base trim a 7-inch touchscreen with wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Are you kidding me? The largest you can get is 9-inch with wireless. We do have that in our TrailSport model, but the base model, I can't even imagine what a 7-inch screen would look like in here.
Yeah, it's interesting because it looks very similar. It's just the actual projection part is smaller. I think that this should be the standard. I mean, come on, in the size of screens we now have in the Kia and Hyundai products,
yeah,
this looks silly, but you know what? That's what they're going with. It still has the button shifter. We talked about it at the very beginning. You do get used to it quite quickly, actually. But one thing I like is the shelf in front of you, Andrea, is quite useful. You're right, it's got lots of cubbies.
This TrailSport model has leatherette upholstery. You've got orange stitching throughout. It comes with some nice features like driver's seat memory, heated captain's chairs back there. You've got a power passenger seat.
But it's not height adjustable.
Not height adjustable, which I think that they could use in here. If you've gone this far, add a height adjustment. There's a wireless charger in here, and you get the panoramic sunroof.
Yeah, it's very nicely equipped. This is Zach spec. This is how I like it. I don't need anything more than this, Andrea.
You don't? Oh, I need to get the rear seat back there. I need the bench seat.
Okay, I retract that.
Yeah.
I retract that, Your Honor. Well, there are more available features. You can get the 10.2-inch digital driver display, navigation, head-up display, multi-view camera, perforated leather upholstery, ventilated front seats, 12-speaker Bose sound system, cabin talk, and also a hands-free power liftgate with walk-away close. Well, here's me getting in the second row. One of the great things is the floor is perfectly flat, easy to get in and out of. There's lots of leg room, lots of headroom. The seats slide forward and aft, and they recline. How does this stack up?
Comparing the Honda Pilot to a larger SUV from Toyota, the Grand Highlander, the Pilot has 41 inches of front row legroom, which is about half an inch less than the Toyota. Second row legroom for the Pilot is 40.8 inches, which is over an inch more than the Grand Highlander.
Here's me getting in the third row. This is a roomy back seat, and it's really quite comfortable. It's a biggie.
Third row legroom at 32.5 inches is an inch less than the Grand Highlander.
Lift the power liftgate on this model and you get a useful cargo space even when all 3 rows are up, and underneath the floor is a nice storage bin.
The Pilot's overall cargo space is 87 cubic feet. Space behind the second row, 48.5, and behind the third row is 18.6 cubic feet. All rows are smaller than the Grand Highlander.
Well, we've got more questions about the interior.
Time now for Questions, Coffee, and Cars.
Your questions from Instagram.
360 camera. Remember we talked about this when we did the 2024 model. And
it was just like it was last year.
I know, right? It feels wasn't too long ago. There is a 360 camera in Canada. The top 2 trims get it. And in the US, the top 2 trims, as well as the TrailSport model.
But we don't get it on the TrailSport. What's the deal, Honda?
I mean, this has got an off-road tune suspension. It's supposed to be the off-road one, right? Don't you think you'd like a camera like that?
Well, that's where they first sort of started, where these forward-facing cameras, if you're going off-road, you can see over obstacles. You know, I don't know.
I don't get it. Like, why eliminate that?
It's not going to be a deal breaker for me because I've lived my whole life without cameras.
And I got a question. How many of you are going off-roading in the Pilot?
TrailSport for this means you're taking it to the cottage. Or you're going skiing with it.
But I also think the regular Pilot could do that as well. But anyway, just saying.
Just saying.
How would you compare it to the Santa Fe? That one is, we get asked that a lot, don't we? Any 3-row SUV, they want to know, how does it compare to the Santa Fe?
Well, the question I have for you is it bigger or smaller?
This is bigger.
Yeah, so that's going to be the main thing. You're going to get more room in this.
Especially cargo space and 3rd row legroom. I mean, this goes up against the Palisade, not the Santa Fe. But price-wise, boy, that Santa Fe is priced really well. In Canada, including freight, PDI, and fees, that XRT model starts at under $50,000.
Which is why I said in the review, it's going to be an absolute smash hit for Hyundai, because it's almost as big. It's got a unique look and it offers really good value. So I kind of wonder, what are they going to do with Palisade for just going over to Hyundai? They're going to move it more upscale. That's what I wonder.
Maybe so. And they do say that it's going to have a very different look. The thing is, if you want more space, you want more cargo capacity, you want more space at the center console, even on the door pockets, this thing is so well laid out. In this 2nd row, for 2025, Honda has opened this feature up to more trims, which I think is great. You can remove that middle seat and you can store it in the cargo area. So if you want captain's chairs, you've got it. If you want a bench seat, you've got it.
The number one thing for me, Andrea, is all of that's nice. This is a V6 and it's got a 10-speed automatic, right?
It does, yes.
Yeah, and so a lot of people are not going to want the wet dual clutch that's in the Santa Fe, and they don't want the 2.5-liter turbo. No. This is going to use more fuel. It is. It's just going to use more fuel, but it's going to be, if you're going to keep it for the long haul, I would probably take this one. I don't know. They're very different products.
Very different products.
I think they're very different buyers too.
I think so too. I think, once again, you go back, you want it as a people mover, an 8-passenger vehicle. This is the one to get.
It's not so,
6 to 7, the Santa Fe.
Yes, but I think it's a different buyer in that people who want a Honda and want a Pilot and will spend the money and they just don't care.
How do you like it compared to the Grand Highlander or new Chevrolet Traverse?
Chevy Traverse is really tough because that one shocked us. We were really pleasantly surprised by pretty much everything about it. The ride, they have an off-road version, the Z71 or the Z71 version, same thing. Smaller wheels, all-terrain tires. The big difference is that has a turbo 4-cylinder. This is a naturally aspirated 6, but the in-dash stuff, the room, that's a compelling package and much cheaper than this.
Also bigger than this when it comes to cargo capacity, behind the 3rd row, overall cargo capacity. That one is more in line with the Atlas for space and the Grand Highlander. So, yeah, I don't know. Once again, some will want a V6 and that's it. You don't want a Turbo 4, you're not even going to look at it. But boy, it sure offers a ton of value as well.
Same thing. People who want a Honda, people who want a Pilot, they'll just spend the extra money, and Honda knows that.
Honda knows it.
And now it's time for our hot topic. What's this one, Andrea?
Will Honda eventually bring a hybrid variant to the Pilot?
Well, I think we're getting a step ahead, Andrea, because I think probably the next step for Pilot might be like a Turbo 4 like they've done with many of the competitors, and then maybe a hybrid. I'm just guessing. Andrea did some digging, did some intel, research department. What did you find out?
Well, the president and CEO of Honda Canada, Jean-Marc Leclerc, he was recently at an event speaking in Toronto. He said by 2040 that all Hondas globally will be electric. So he also commented on the fact that dealerships are asking for more hybrids. That is what consumers are buying. And so he says that the dealerships, they need to give them a little bit more information to make it a little bit easier to sell EVs.
I'll make it easy for you, Andrea. Just walk down to the Toyota dealer and look at all the hybrids and plug-ins that they offer.
Yeah.
That's the formula that works. Go down to the Toyota store. Jean-Luc Leclerc?
No, he
Jean-Marc
did. Jean-Marc Leclerc.
Jean-Marc Leclerc?
So he did mention that, of course, with the federal government policies in place, that you have to sell a certain amount of EVs to get your credits. If the government changes and hybrids are added, let's say.
Well, they are in the U.S. They made that change.
Yeah. Honda says that they can pivot quickly and make changes. So I'm wondering.
I say pivot now.
Pivot now.
We are on the front lines of getting feedback from you, the viewer, and you are telling us you want these in hybrids.
And plug-in hybrids.
And you don't want to go all the way to an EV. You want something in the middle. Toyota's Crack the code.
And we all know that although EV sales are up, they're not growing at the pace that many of these manufacturers had hoped. And I think it's time that we need to focus more on what consumers want. Hybrids, plug-in hybrids. And if you are in the market for an EV and an EV works for your lifestyle, that's wonderful, but it doesn't work for everybody.
All right, so we're going to get into the fuel economy for this. It's not great. And more in our vital stats.
Let's start with pricing. We'll do Canada first and then move on to the US. The prices in Canada includes freight, PDI, and fees. The base model starts at just under $55,500, and the top Black Edition model is just over $67,000. In the US, the base model starts at just under $40,000, and the Black Edition just over $54,000.
Here's the fuel economy: 12.4 liters per 100 kilometers in the city, 9.3 on the highway. That's just 19 miles per gallon in the city, but 25 miles per gallon on the highway. All-wheel drive models can tow 5,000 pounds and front-wheel drive models 3,500 pounds. The warranty is 3 years, 60,000 kilometers, or 36,000 miles. So let's get into three-row SUVs of a similar size. What else can you pick?
For your consideration, 4 vehicles for you to consider.
Up first is the Nissan Pathfinder with a 3.5-liter V6, 284 horsepower, and a starting price just over $49,500.
The Kia Telluride with a 3.8-liter V6, 291 horsepower, and a starting price of $53,000.
The Volkswagen Atlas with a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, 269 horsepower, and a starting price just over $53,000.
The Mazda CX-90 with a 3.3-liter inline-6 turbo, 280 horsepower, and a starting price just over $48,000.
So there are 4 three-row SUVs for you to consider.
Lightning round: 2 things we like, 2 things we'd like to see improved.
I gotta say, I love the power of a V6.
This is super comfortable.
What I'd like to see Honda do is add a bench seat to the TrailSport model. It's what people want.
I'm going to say it for Andrea. Let's get the bigger screen as standard equipment. Come on, it's 2020. Well, now it's 2025.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. What do you think of that? That's the Honda Pilot.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.